Hi, I'm Tim. Welcome to Watchbox, and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me, tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It's in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any watch you see on any Watchbox platform. Please reach out to me directly for pricing. Email tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today we are discussing a watch from Moritz Grossmann, a small independent out of Glashütte, making watches since 2008 using an old and hallowed name from German watchmaking. This is the Moritz Grossmann High Art piece, 41 millimeters in stainless steel. You can see that it features a thickness of 11.6 millimeters, and from lug to lug, the watch is 50.5 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs. Now the timepiece is easy to wear on a smaller wrist. As you can see, on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, though this is a fairly large dress watch, the curvature of the lugs in particular means it wears well. The timepiece is substantial again for a dress watch, but still flat enough to easily slide underneath the dress cuff with a shallow domed bezel and a more or less flat, very lightly cambered crystal. The timepiece could be recommended for a wrist as small as 15 centimeters circumference. You can see again, my wrist is 16 centimeters. We'll take the watch off the wrist, take a quick look at the strap, and you can see that it matches the color of the dial. It is a dark blue, large rectangular scale alligator leather. It has a monotone stitch, folded edge, a little bit of bolstering to give it some volume, and then on the underside, calf skin. You can see this is a Moritz Grossmann factory strap, and that it is in outstanding condition. Taking a quick look at the buckle, it's a simple pin buckle that is polished. It has the Moritz Grossmann logo and name on it, and on the underside you can see double polished. Taking a quick look at the spring bars, you can see that the lugs are drilled close to the case, with the result that the pivot centers of the strap are quite close together, actually closer together than the outermost reaches of the lugs. One of the reasons this watch fits fairly well, that curved spring bar allows the close drilling in proximity to the case without any impediment to the motion of the strap. The case is nicely made. As you can see, the lugs are sharply broken from the case band, something I find to be quite handsome. It's not a stepped lug look like you'll find at, for example, Lange, nor is it a blended lug Calatrava style profile. It's handsome and distinctive of this brand. The lugs themselves are surprisingly long and tapered with an elegant sculptural curvature to them. Now we have a crown that's unbranded, but you can see a lot of attention to detail here with the crown. The little kerf on the underside so you can more easily dig your nail in below it. And the crown is designed for setting without actually being permanently displaced from the case band. So let me show you how this works. You pull the crown out, it pops right back into its flush position. Now you can use it to set the watch. One of the problems with a conventional watch is that once you've set the time, you push the crown back in, the hands budge. So no matter how precise the watch is, and no matter how precisely you set the time, you will ultimately wind up with a watch that indicates incorrectly. Well, you can see that with this system engaged, the watch is hacked, the balance is stopped. I set the time, and now when I want to release and resume timing, I press the release trigger below the crown, and you can see that there's no displacement of the hands by accident. And on the reverse side of the watch, the balance is beating again. The dial is what makes this a high art piece. It is made of sterling silver, it is blue galvanized, and the patterns have been cut using a rose lathe. There's a lovely soleil pattern billowing out from an imaginary center point atop the small seconds hand. The small seconds subregister has a lovely rosette pattern. Again, all of this is done reductively on a dial that is a solid disc of sterling silver. The watch is also branded and printed in spare fashion. As you can see, the name as well as the indices for the minutes are printed on the underside of the crystal, so there's actually nothing printed on the dial. The hands are one of the highlights of the watch and the highlights of every Moritz Grossmann timepiece. As you can see, they are black polished and cut manually, so the finishing, which is done manually, ensures that each hand is its own micro sculpture. And when you're only making 200 to 400 watches a year like Moritz Grossmann does, you can fabricate hands on this scale with this level of attention. Now, turning the watch over, we have a movement distinguished by many beautiful nuances. So let's start with the big one. Right here, everything that you see on the bridges is engraved. So you can see Moritz Grossmann, the city of origin, the number of jewels. It's not engraved using some sort of a drill bit or an automated tool. It is engraved the same way the balance cock is engraved, the same way the escape wheel cock is engraved, manually with a burin and very slowly. Now you can see there is 1, 2, 3 separate solarizations of the ratchet wheel. We have both violet brown and black polished screws. Each one features chamfered slots and chamfered circumference. Now, brown violet is more difficult to achieve than blue. If you fire steel screws all day long, they'll turn a nice dark blue, but it takes timing to achieve this color, more or less the same from screw to screw. Not an easy thing to do. This particular color is dependent entirely on the craftsman's sense of timing, and achieving that consistency so there's not a gradient from screw to screw to screw is harder still. You can see that in the standards set by Glashütte watchmaking in the 19th and early 20th century, you would have a 3/4 style bridge over the barrel and the drivetrain, and that's exactly what we have right here. And not only do we have this 3/4 style bridge and lots of freehand engraving, but we have pivot jewels, which in this case are clear rather than synthetic rubies, and they are set in golden chaton fixed by screws. This harks back to the days when manufacturing tolerances were not as great as they are today, and so a precision chaton would be made to hold the pivot jewel, and then it would be fit into the bridge or the plate using screws to hold the chaton static in the plate. You can also see that we have broad stripes, far broader than what you'll find at Glashütte Original or Lange, for instance, and they have a wonderful luminous gradient across that is just not possible when you're using narrower stripes. You can also appreciate that when you're building watches on this scale, you can do beveling the right way. You could see that the anglage on the edge of the bridges, it is broad, mirrored, and continuously rounded, the kind you get when you execute the beveling and the anglage by manual means. This is not done with any kind of a machine. The rounded mirrored surface is indicative of time well spent. Now once again, we will stop the balance and take a quick look at it. I'm sorry about my fingers, which are a little slippery today. You can see that the balance is large and proprietary. It's a recessed bolt balance design, which means it takes the bolts out of the free airstream, reducing parasitic friction caused by air resistance. You can also appreciate that making a balance is much harder than making bridges and plates. So Moritz Grossmann is a true manufacturer, creating this, one of the most specialized parts of the watch. Here we have caliber 100.1. It is a manual wind with a 42-hour power reserve. It has a huge balance, pocket watch style, that is almost equal to the radius of the movement. It beats away at a very traditional 18,000 vibrations per hour. Moreover, here we have a hand-shaped overcoil hairspring, so in any physical position with respect to gravity, the watch will keep even time and the hairspring will breathe concentrically because its mass is centered. Of course, the bridges and the plates are made of German silver, which is an alloy of nickel and copper and zinc, and that's what gives it this golden hue. You can see that the base plate is frosted and that there is a gorgeous screw-based micrometric rack regulating system that is unique to Moritz Grossmann. The regulator, the cap to, or I should say the crown wheel core, as well as the click, all black polished, impressively finished off with a diamond paste to give it that mirrored surface, and then all of this in stainless steel, water resistant down to 30 meters. Reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details of this Moritz Grossmann High Art piece.